You can't help it.
I'll see
Yeah.
if there's some left.
You know, it's when we're done.
I'll show you.
Anybody
I'll
else?
show you the tax statement.
Yeah.
I don't think I would give it number.
Call to order meeting on Monday, December 1st, 2025 at 6 PM. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel,
Here.
council members Robinson,
Here.
Udvig. Here. Faunus. Here. Mulebauer.
Here.
On to the approval of tonight's agenda. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Mulebauer. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda passes on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Udvig. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Robinson. Any discussion? And I appreciate, Kevin, I appreciate and Jenny sending out the application on, so we could just see the new person, and that's really all I've got on that. So, do I have, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. On to meeting open to the public. So there will also be two more open public sessions. One will be after the presentation about the budget. And then there's one later in the meetings, but anybody who wishes to speak, feel free to come forward. Just state what you want to speak about. Hey, Barb.
I'm Barb Anderson. I live in St. Francis, and I meant to call City Hall, but I forgot. Just to thank the Public Works people for the quick work they did on the cleaning the streets after the snow stuff. Even went into the side areas, and it was really nice. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Anybody else? Mike?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Mike Rogers, St. Francis. I'm kind of looking through these bills that we pay in this month, and I'm looking at one in here for $131,602.02 to Metro West inspections. Can you tell me what that's for?
That is the contract we have for the building official, and the big one on there was Metro or Vista Prairie. So that's why it's so big this month.
I figured that's why we had a building inspector that we pay full time here. Is that correct or?
I'll let Kate.
Mayor and
Speak to
council,
that.
so with the fees to Metro West, they are under contract for 50% of
Can you please speak into a microphone, please?
of the plan review. So we are under contract with them as our building official is a limited, and that was also a state facility with the assisted living and the memory care. So we used Metro West for Vista Prairie. They bill us, and then they obtain 50% of the total permit fees. So they do not get paid unless there's a project in which the permit requires them. So it's not out of pocket, it's paid for by the permit itself.
Is that something that the developer pays in the long run, part of the permit fees?
Yes, Mayor and Council, it is 50% of those permit fees.
Okay, there was one more in here that I looked at. I see there's like a $26,775 for Ferguson power pump for dewatering. Do we know what that's about?
Mayor and Council, that's me. Yes, we do. The dewatering process is where we remove the water from the solids or the holding tanks at Public Works. It's done once a year. And they press it out, and then we transfer all the biosolids out to local area where they can spread out on fields. That's what that's for.
Thank you, sir. There's a couple more. It just seemed that this month's bills were quite extravagant compared to other months. Like Barna Guzzi. There's a few bills in there for civil legal fees. Do we know what that's about?
Mayor and council, so we're under contract with BGS. These bills are related to all of the matters, both civil and criminal, that we would be requesting them, from documents to criminal reviews and proceedings with the police department.
Thank you, Kate. There was one more in here I saw to a gal by the name of, I think her name was Mary Wells for.
Mayor and council, that is half of our assessing contract. So we pay Mary Wells and Eric Skolquist, and they each get half of it.
Perfect, thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak at this time? Okay, seeing none, on to the public hearing for the proposed budget, 2026 proposed budget presentation. Darcy?
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, council, residents, and staff. Before you tonight is the 2026 proposed levy and budget. After the presentation, the mayor needs to open up the meeting to allow for public input. After that segment is done, council can then approve the final levy and the budget, which would then, the levy would be sent to the county to be placed on the tax rolls in 2026. Each year, the budget goals for the city are to maintain high quality, cost-effective public services and address priorities set by city council and maintain a strong fiscal position. So the budget process is a long process. We start way early in the year by just estimating salaries. Then we go through, the departments all do their own budgets and submit that. They enter it right into our financial software. Then I look at revenue estimates. What are we going to get for LGA, anything else? We do debt service amounts. I figure that out. The capital budgets, we do the CIP in the summer. The department heads give us back their information. Then it's all compiled to see what levy we need to pay for everything. Then in September, we set the preliminary levy, which we did last September. That then is certified to the county, which then generates those notices that came out a couple weeks ago. And then in December, we set the final levy and budget. So how are property taxes calculated in Minnesota? It's kind of a long drawn out process. First, the assessors determine the values of the houses. They work with the county and they get the values. The work that's done in 2024 sets the value for the notices that are sent out in spring of 2025. That then is used for your 2026 taxes. So if anybody had a problem with their value, that notice comes out in the spring, and then you have to go to Anoka County to talk to them about what they was valued at. So then the levies are set by all the different boards, the city, the school district, the county. All of them set their individual levies in September, and then the county pulls them all together to get an overall tax rate. But tonight we're only talking about the city's portion. The third thing that needs to be calculated is fiscal disparities, which is a program for the 7-county metro area. It started way back in 1971 and it places 40% of any new value into this common pool. And that is taxed at a rate and then spread to all those entities in that 7-county metro area based on population and levy. So we put some money in, but we get more out. So in net out of that, we come out on the better end, okay? So our tax rate, our preliminary tax levy as set in September was $7,180,000. We take off the fiscal disparities that we'll receive of $1,169,310. That's removed to bring us down to what is called the spreadable levy, which is $6,010,690 for 2026. Then you have to find your tax capacity value, which for the city is $10,595,593. You take off of there that amount that we have to put into fiscal disparities, and there's another little adjustment, and that totals $486,715, which equals our adjusted tax capacity value of $10,142,316. Then the next step is to then take that spreadable levy of $6,010,690 divided by the adjusted tax capacity of $10,142,316 to equal a tax rate for 2026 of 59.263%.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So the tax capacity value, that 10 million, 10.5 million, is that all of the properties in St. Francis all added up, like the property values?
Yes, but it's
Or-
not estimated market value. So for a residential home, the estimated market value is taken times a percentage to come down to your tax capacity. So our estimated market value is a lot more for the city.
Okay.
So there's different classifications, and commercial and industrial is treated separately than residential. So it's a complicated process actually in Minnesota. So a couple weeks ago, taxpayers would have received their proposed tax notice. Here's an example of one. In this notice, the first thing I would look at is that value. That is going to generate what your taxes are. And it gives you the value that you were in 2025 and your value you are in 2026. And you can see this home actually dropped a little bit. Another thing that is interesting on it is then we have this homestead exclusion, which came into play several years ago. It starts off at, get to my notes here, $38,000 for a home that is valued at $95,000 or less. That is removed from their estimated market value. But if your home is worth more than $95,000, the amount over the $95,000 is taken times 9%, and that's removed from that market value exclusion. So in other words, when you get down to a house that is worth $517,200, you've lost all market value exclusion. So when your value of your house goes up by the assessor, you lose you're not only does your value go up, but you lose market value exclusion. So then the next thing that you look at is there's a line item on there that is the City of St. Francis taxes only for this property. And you can see they were $1,358.28 in 2025. And in 2026, they will be paying in city taxes $1,445.44. So they did go up. There is a second page to that tax statement. It's just the tax levies for all the different entities within the county of Anoka. It's just informational purposes. So this slide shows you different valued homes, their tax capacity. That's where you can see that, you know, a $200,000 home, their tax capacity is $1,715. That's what's taken times the tax rate, not the estimated market value. And it shows there what they would have paid in 2025 versus what they are scheduled to pay in 2026. And then the down at the bottom, it shows the difference in the tax levies. Remember that since you took away the stormwater fee and added that in here, some of those you would have to adjust by that $72 because they know those properties no longer have to pay the $72. And then one note is median home value house in St. Francis for 2026 is $321,300. So the levy is made up by different components. The county only sees that there's the general component and then the debt service components. We break it down farther, that general levy, we've broken it down into that the operating, like the general fund receives $4,535,000 next year. There's another $50,000 that's going in there, but that's that tax abatement to Vista Prairie that we will have to, they'll submit once they've paid their taxes and then we'll reimburse them. There's the capital equipment is $175,000 in 26. Now that dropped because I had to move some of that money. What we've been talking about had fire department in there. I moved that from the capital equipment fund into the general operating because now we're just making those transfers to the fire district as of the first of the year. Parks is at $250,000. There's building improvements for $50,000. That stormwater that I talked to that we moved from fee-based into the levy is $300,000. And then the street improvement is $720,000 for a total general levy of $6,080,000. And we have two debt service levies. There's the 2017 debt, which is the refunded issue on the lease purchase for the police public works building. And then there's $790,000, and that is for this building. So that comes down to the total levy of $7,180,000.
Darcy, can I ask one more question?
Yep.
We might have to go back one. That line where it says, the stormwater fee, and it's $300,000. Can you go over that again and how that affected our percentage at the bottom?
Yes, I forgot, somebody asked earlier, if we hadn't done the 300,000, our increase in our tax levy would only be 11.24% or $665,000.
And the 300,000 isn't a new tax or fee. It's the stormwater, the
used to-
bills
yeah.
that we would send them a statement and they had to pay the $80 or whatever it
Yep.
was. So that's not new. It's just new to being in this format.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
we moved from a fee-based to a levy-based. And that's why the fund is also moving from an enterprise fund to a capital. Because just the component of how it's going to receive its money from now on.
Thank you.
Okay. So then this slide just shows you that calculation that I went through, or the different levies and the total calculation and the tax rate, minus the fiscal disparities and like I say, the overall levy is going up by $995,000. Just want to show that the 10-year history of what our levy has done. Here, this is the total levy. So we're at the $7,180,000 in 2026. And I'm going to move on into the general fund. First of all, I'll talk about the revenue budget. The total budget is $6,498,250. This includes taxes, which includes the current and delinquent amounts, licenses and permits, which includes building permits, fines and forfeits, which includes amounts passed on through the state, intergovernmental, which includes LGA and police aid amounts. Charges for services includes admin fees from other funds, and the fire services contract with Bethel. Right now, in 2026, we still have a contract with Bethel that we are going to continue. So that money's going to come into the general fund, but it's going to get transferred out to the fire district. Moving forward, the fire district will submit a request to both cities, and that will be what will come into the fire district. And then the miscellaneous category, which includes interest and cable TV revenues. There's also a transfer of $70,000 from the liquor store, of which $15,000 is for Pioneer Day fireworks. So this slide shows you our second biggest revenue source in the general fund is our LGA, or local government aid. And you can see it's been steadily increasing. We lost it, most of it, for several years back before this slide starts. We are seeing just a $2,000 increase next in that.
Why did we lose it before this chart started?
The state took away LGA for all the cities, basically. A lot of the cities lost their LGA, and some of them in the middle of a year. It was a tough couple of years.
And it could happen again
Yep, that was how they balanced their budget at the time.
if they come out in their budget.
Moving forward, on the other side, the general fund expenditures, that is at $6,568,250. This includes general government, which includes council, administration, finance, legal. Public safety includes the police and fire. Public works, which includes streets and recycling. Culture and recreation, which includes parks and Pioneer Days. Community development, which includes planning and zoning and building inspections. And then miscellaneous is for amounts not allocated to any other department. So the total increase in the expenditure budget is $817,250. Of this amount, personnel costs are about $260,000. So the budget is balanced at $6,568,250. Going back, just talking about those categories, the general government includes the administration departments along with legal, auditing, assessing. The budget is managed here, city codes, elections, council, boards. The public safety includes that police and fire response in town and all of the other educational opportunities, the other services that they respond to. Streets and recycling, our snow and ice control, our street lighting, tree trimming, recycle day, street maintenance, all of that falls in that category. Parks and trails except for like the new equipment, we have the park fund for that. This is the maintenance of the playgrounds, the ball fields, skating rinks, all of that. And then community development includes the building permit inspections, economic development, rental license, vacant building registrations. And then we have the debt service that we talked about. Now remember, the debt service, that debt service that I talked about is only the ones that have a levy associated with it. The rest of the debt service the city has that is with water and sewer, those are accounted for in the water and sewer funds. So we don't have a levy on any of that. And we have some other funds there. We have the special revenue fund. There's one that's a police forfeiture fund. That's just if they have a forfeiture, the money goes in there, those debt service funds. And then all the capital funds that we have in the city for different things. And then we have the enterprise funds, which when we're setting the budget for tonight, we've talked about the water and sewer rates before. Those generate their own fees to pay for their fund. Okay. So we have the water, the wastewater, and then the liquor fund. I would then say, the new thing was this kind of estimated tax bill. There's a packet of these. They're back on the table. I don't know if anybody picked them up. We also put them online. So what I did was the mayor had seen an article on it. Shakopee did this taxpayer receipt just to kind of show you out of your taxes what your bill is paying for, how much is going to the different little departments and stuff in there. Now I can't do every scenario because values don't stay the same. So one sheet, it would be value staying the same. And I'm not thinking that most values will, any values would stay the same. So.
Could you tell them real quick where to find it on the site, on the website? If they want to
Yeah,
check it?
if you go out to the city of St. Francis stfrancismn.gov, and then you'd go under departments and you'd go under finance, and you put it under supporting documents was this page. And then come January, February, somewhere in there, the full budget will be online. We have an online budget version that we use, but right now there's a little proposed budget that's online under that's in that same area. So I leave it up to, does council has any questions? Otherwise, I would ask the mayor to open up the meeting for public input.
Okay, at this time at 6:27, we'll open the meeting up to the public. Again, at this point in time, we want you to speak about the budget, the proposed levy. There will be another opportunity later on if you have other issues you want to speak about as well. So please step forward, state your name. I'm assuming you're a resident, but just say if you're a resident.
Hi, I'm a resident. My name is Pete Dubois. I'm wondering how tax capacity is determined. Because my capacity has not increased to pay by almost 15% is what mine has gone up this year. That's a lot. The value of my property went up 4%. I thought that was a little bit tall this year, but okay, all right, I'll hang in there. But for my taxes to go up almost 15%, that's for me, that's not my capacity to pay. Where's that capacity come from?
So are you talking your overall
No,
bill?
I'm talking about the city with you. If you look at school and this for just the line item that's the budget, it's almost 15% mine went up.
So that is determined by your value,
But 15%, the value only went up 4%.
but you lose that market value exclusion. So it kind of hits you doubly.
I lose what market value exclusion?
So when.
Get a homestead credit? Is that what
Yeah,
you're talking about?
yeah.
That went down somewhat, yes.
Yes, you lose part
Yes.
of that. So more of your.
Doesn't make up the difference of the 15% though. It simply doesn't. So I think that the increase has exceeded what makes sense on my tax form as far as the value of my home that's gone up and the decrease in the homestead tax credit. 15% is a lot to go up in 1 year. I have to pay that every year. It's not like it goes away next year. that continues plus whatever has to go up the following years. So I think in a year where real estate values have leveled a little bit, insurance costs have doubled for some people. The expenses for me to keep up the property has gone up quite a bit. I think the tax capacity doesn't take into account the ability for people to pay that taxes. I think that's the piece that's missing. The capacity is a numbers game. It's like, this is the budget. Okay, what's the capacity for everybody to pay based on dividing that budget across all of the values of the real estate in the city? I don't think it relates to what's fair for me to pay as far as an increase in 1 year. I think it's excessive. I understand it's a hard job. There's a lot that we have to pay for. I really appreciate the services, but it's unrealistic to exceed it by that much at a time when everything else is costing so much. I just don't quite understand how you can do that. So that's my complaint, but I appreciate what everybody's doing here. It's a very difficult job, but my capacity to pay has nothing to do with the real estate capacity to pay. It's what you determine through numbers, not what's reasonable and fair based on everything that's going on in people's lives today. You know, there might need to look at some things that, you know, maybe there's some improvements that should wait. Maybe there's some things that shouldn't be in the budget. I know you've gone through a very difficult process to pull that all together. I've done large budgets myself, but this is not a good time for people to have an increase of 15%, or if you include the county, 16.9% or whatever it is. That's a lot in 1 year. And we continue to pay that every year, plus whatever increases are going to happen in future years. So that's my concern, is that you need to think about our ability to pay. It's unfair, I think, to raise it that much in 1 year. And we're looking at increases in continuing years because costs are going to go up every year. So I know it's going to, even though my value goes up, for it to exceed it by that much just doesn't make sense. And that's what I have to say. So
Appreciate that. I just want time and something that she explained earlier too. Trust me, it's still too high in my opinion, in addition to that, but some of that is because of the MS4 permit that we were billing out separately.
I don't quite understand what that means.
The MS4 was the, so I can explain it.
You were billing it out separately, meaning it was still hitting on a separate line item as far as our taxes?
No, we were actually sending out for every parcel in the city of St. Francis, we were sending out a bill
Yep.
for $72 or $100 somewhere in that. I don't know.
It-
that
Okay.
range.
It started out at $60 and it's been 72 for a couple of years.
So some of that just, like I say, I
But
still
we're
think it's too
talking an
high.
increase of hundreds of dollars for me.
I get
Okay,
it.
that's,
I get
that, I understand that. But it really, it's not something that's sustainable for people to continue at that rate. And I know that in the future, costs aren't going to get better. They're rising, inflation's going up. So it's going to be an increase next year too. And my property value is going to go up as well, which is great if I sell it, not if I'm paying taxes though. So I just want to let you know that that you have to take into account what people are paying for, just specifically for the real estate, upkeep, insurance. It's a lot. So, and you add taxes to it, it's like, holy cow. You know, I gotta, well, I've said enough, but
No, you did a good job. You said, you hit the nail on the head.
okay.
You just can't, you can't have anything nice anymore. I've actually thought about mine as well, over $1,000. And, you know, I've been there 8 years. I think it started at $5,100. Now it's over $6,800. I don't think I can live there anymore.
How much taxes on my real estate percentage wise is too much? Where's the top? Where are we going to stop? There has to be some reason given to increase it beyond, we have to spend the money. It's what's reasonable. Yes, we have services we have to get, fire, police, safety, roads. I get all that, but it just seems unreasonable to me. So, all right. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Hello, Tina Carroll. Just a quick question first. What is LGA and what does that actually cover?
LGA is local government aid. It's a state program. They go through and they give us that money. There's different formulas that determine how much we'll get. And that just goes into the general fund. So that lowers that part of the levy.
Okay, so,
If we didn't get that, we would have to raise our levy.
okay, so it's not divvied out to a specific program or department or anything, it's just in general. Okay. Then a couple of other questions. I noticed that you put on there that Vista Prairie, that abatement is $50,000 a year for next year. So is that going to stay 50,000 for the next 10 years? And how is that going to affect us as well? Because we have to pay that for 10 years because anybody that knows says they're not going to refinance or sell if they're getting free county taxes for 10 years.
It is not gonna stay at 50,000. The max is $200,000. The reason why it's $50,000 was because it wasn't fully built, so the full value wasn't on there this year. So it could jump another $150,000. And that
For
is
2026.
for the tax levy for, that you set in 26 for 27, yes. And it's,
So it can't increase over 50,000 for 2026.
no, once we can't raise the levy from what was set in September tonight, except for extraordinary circumstances, which would be a bond or like a major disaster or something like that. So we cannot raise our levy. The bond consultants gave me an estimate of what their city taxes would be for next year that they would be requesting from us. And they said it'd be right around the, $40,000 to $50,000.
Okay. Now how does all of this affect the new homes that are being built? Because some of them, are you taking that into account when you're looking at the taxation and I forget what that's called, but
Tax capacity?
thank you, the tax capacity, is that being looked at?
Well, that doesn't affect it. So what is like a house, if it's, help me with this. If it's built before, or if it's done before July of the year, then the value would go in for the spring and affect the next year's taxes. So we set a levy. That levy doesn't change based on how many new homes we get in. What that affects is that tax capacity amount when they finally get on, but it takes like a year and a half for that value to hit the tax rolls.
So, but yet they're still paying taxes.
They will go
Once
a
they-
year with very low taxes because like when they start building it, if they're in the middle of building it and it's September, they're still taxed as kind of a vacant land until they finish that house.
Until somebody actually purchases it or the builder actually just
Until
finishes building
it's
it.
Built.
Okay. And now how does the tax capacity compare for a resident, like a residential home versus a business? Do they actually pay more?
Yeah, a business would pay more.
Like what
Because
percentage roughly?
first, I can't tell you that because it's all based on different things, but like I said before, any new business coming in, 40% of it goes into that fiscal disparities. So it's taxed at that fiscal disparities amount. And then the rest is taxed at our tax rate. And then that's distributed back to us. So a business I can't tell you all the different ins and outs of that one. Residential is very kind of straightforward in that it has the value. Then they get that exclusion, which businesses don't get at all, and comes down to the amount that they take times the tax rate.
Okay, and how does our increase compare to other cities in the county?
You'd have to go back to that second sheet.
That back page.
Slide 50, page 59.
Yes, yeah, I don't have that, so.
Can you put me back up on the screen? Come on. To this one. If I go back. Come on. Mm-mm.
There you go.
So this one shows us the different changes, like the county of Anoka is going up 10.17%. City of Andover is going up 4.15%. East Bethel is going up 3.85.
So we're quite a bit higher than most of them.
Lino Lakes is going up 16.22%.
So-
And now then is going up 9%, but you have to remember, one of the things I would, we're going up 16%, but I would take off that stormwater fee because,
Right.
Except
so you're
almost
down to
5%.
11%.
That's 5%
Yep.
of that. So based on what the last resident said, that what can we do to look at not doing some of the improvements? Because as everybody knows, everything goes up and I get it. But what can we actually hold off on doing to try and keep our costs down? Because we are just, every single one of us is strapped. I mean, have you seen the lines at that food shelf over here every single week? I mean, there's one in Blaine that I'll admit I used to go to. It made it on the news a few weeks ago because they served the most people they have served since COVID. They actually gave out 2.5 semi-truckloads of food because everything is going up so high. They normally have about a block long worth of cars. They had to have cops come in and direct traffic because it was going back into the neighborhoods. Because it's just, everything is so high, we can't afford it anymore. What can we put off that is not necessary to get off of this budget? So, thank you all for what you do, but I would really appreciate anything we can do to hold off.
Hello, I'm Marv Marquette. Sorry, I haven't been here for probably 25 years to a council meeting, so it's a little different now. I appreciate what's been said. And my concern also is I think the tax statements used to, a number of years ago, if your property tax went up over, it actually said on the statement, if it went up over 10%, you could talk about that. And mine's gone up 20.7%. And I'm retired, or I was hoping to be retired. And there's no way, most people do their voting by their feet. And at this point, I'm going to have to, you increase the house increases, or you increase the value of the house for tax purposes. But in reality, when you have to pay $100 more in taxes a month, that really decreases the value of your home because people are going to pay taxes rather than the price of the house coming up $100 more a month on their payment. That's the way I look at it. So in other words, they're just going to have to pay another $100 plus a month on their house payment. And as was already said, everything else has increased so much. And so I would agree, if you can find some way to lower this budget, it would be a wise thing to do because people are not going to be able to afford to live even in St. Francis. I've been here, I built my own house here nearly 30 years ago, and things have tripled for sure. So I appreciate your diligence in working on that. Really be a blessing. Thanks.
Thank you, Marv.
Thank you for all that that the council's doing for St. Francis. My name is James Kalish. Me and my wife bought a place back in 12 when the market was flat, paid about 200 for it. Now you say it's worth 550. My taxes went up 21.5% in 1 year. And I'll be honest, we haven't done a lot to the house. So you're taxing me on unrealized income. You're telling me my house is worth this. Well, just because the real estate industry says the house is worth more every year doesn't make it so. This is a tough pill to take for all of us. So if you can cut something back, I don't know what it would be, some kind of improvement. I mean, $1,200, it's over $1,200. I mean, it's just under $7,000 to live up here. Obviously, I don't own my property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jason Lee. My property taxes went up 21.7%. And I realize that all ain't on you guys, but I got a $200,000 house I built 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Basement ain't even finished. I got it appraised at 583,000. So how does that work? And then there's one other thing I wanted to know about this wastewater deal. How much is that for us? How much does that amount to? It ain't listed separate anymore.
The waste,
Wastewater runoff?
the stormwater?
Yeah, stormwater.
Okay, so the stormwater was a separate bill that we used to send out,
Yep.
and we're not gonna be doing that next year. It's part of the tax levy.
How much is stormwater runoff?
It's gonna vary based on your value of your house.
I live in sand. There's no water running off any place. It's all flat ground right from my land right out to the street. It's all flat ground. So I mean, how can you charge a wastewater runoff when there is none?
Well, it's a stormwater.
Or stormwater,
Not the-
stormwater, wastewater, whatever.
They're, yeah, they're,
Stormwater.
I just want to qualify that it is stormwater, not wastewater, because that's a whole different thing. Paul, do you want to take it a little bit on that? More the,
Yeah, Mayor and Council, if your ditches outside of the sewer and water district are included, wherever there is water shedded from any, whether it's sand or not, it doesn't matter what soil type it is considered stormwater runoff. That's covered underneath the state, from my understanding. So the city has to collect the money for it.
Well, where is the water run to? I mean,
It's
don't-
because the entire city, if it's a state, it's an unfunded state mandate put on the city that basically because we discharge our stormwater to an outstanding water resource, which is the Rum River, they put stipulations on us to maintain all of that infrastructure.
we ain't close to the Rum River.
It's,
There's no way my water's gonna run down to the Rum River
yeah, and
or any place.
geographically, it's not anything that matters where you are or what. We all are forced to pay that.
Well, just like that other fellow that got up here, guy's trying to retire, you know, and you got taxes of $7,260. And then you throw the damn insurance on there because they keep upping the value of your house, which is not right.
And the valuation, I was gonna chime in after the last gentleman too, but I figured.
And I understand you gotta go to Anoka for that.
Yeah, that's one thing is, and you can contact our tax assessors.
the city
as well.
assessors, yep.
And I know there's a date, I don't know exactly what the date is to talk to the county, but I know,
It's the exact same time as us.
okay,
It's like 6 o'clock on December
that's
1st.
nice.
The,
Same day, yeah,
That's right
same
now.
day. it says.
that's their levy, but it's
That's
comes
right.
in the spring.
No,
I think
that's
it's March there's the, Board of Equalization. And so you would go and talk to that if you are contesting the value on your home.
So that form came out in the spring.
That comes out, yes, in the spring.
See, it gets built up because it goes up 1 year and a guy says, well, I guess that ain't too bad. You know, how much more could it go up? And then the next year it goes up at 21%, you know, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, like somebody was saying, we'll all be in the food line pretty soon. That's all I got.
Jason?
Good evening. Thank you for your time and I appreciate it. Tammy Dvorak, I'm a St. Francis resident. So I would just like to, my question for the council is, what are you guys doing to, okay, this goes through, you can't find anywhere to cut it. You go through, you've obviously heard all the increases, the amount of increases and how much it's gone through. What are we doing to mitigate that growth in the future? What are we thinking outside the box? How can we help how can we help the city have what we need, what we want, and think outside the box? Are you doing community members when you build a budget? And can we do extra things to foster a budget that doesn't always come from the people who live here? I don't know what that is, but what are you doing to mitigate this level of growth over time? Because none of us, even if you guys live here, nobody will be able to constantly be able to afford 16%, 20% growth each year, every year. Like the last gentleman said, you kind of eat it because you're like, I don't want to spend my money on this, but okay, I understand there's growth and stuff. These leaps, bounds, and I understand there's other things that were added there that weren't before. But what are we doing and what is the council doing to mitigate this growth?
It's not, I wish I could give you a
Yeah.
pad answer right now. There is not a pad.
No,
answer I
but
can
that's
give you.
my question is a rhetorical question to when you pass this budget, you would think about where we're gonna make cuts. What can we do instead of on the backs of the citizens that live here? And I'm sure you guys all live here. It's more of a rhetorical question. Can we think outside the box? Have we collaborated with other cities that are doing it? And when I say this, I don't mean to take offense to you guys that are doing it well, that don't have growths like this. You know, eventually, like they said, we will not be able to live here. You know, there are some people that I had the ability to speak with that now I feel like I shouldn't even complain compared to what theirs went up. But we can't continue this. And again, I will reiterate, please look and see if there's some cuts that can be made. And then as a team, let's think what we're going to do to mitigate this growth in the future. Okay, thank you.
Mike Radger, St. Francis. I've sat in this room here for the last 6 months with this conversation. One thing I want to give you guys is you guys were completely transparent about this, completely. That being said, maybe you guys should have paid a little more attention, watch it online or whatever. No fault to your own. What I did think was bad was the school district. What they pulled was totally sneaky. To jump on what she says, somewhere, somehow, we got to start creating revenue. I know you've heard this many times from me, but what are we going to do next year when we got a bond for 47? You're going to come back and ask these guys for another 15%? Somewhere we got to come up with developing in this town. I mean, the apartment building across the street, I'm sorry, Tina, but it definitely would have helped with this situation. Because the 16.5%, they would have had to pay that outside of the TIF money. That would have been a pretty good chunk to help with the budget. We need to start thinking outside that box, like this gal says. Cambridge hasn't raised their taxes. I don't know. I've talked to you about that, Mark. I don't know if you called them and asked them what they're doing. Rogers has got a different program. They haven't raised any either. Sartell just bringing a big development in there with a commercial development. Those are things that are going to pay taxes towards the city that are going to help so we don't have to burden the whole cost. I mean, we could have a lot of nice things, but somewhere along the line, we got to draw that and say, we got to do something to stop the bleeding. We are hemorrhaging, Mark. And to let the school district do it, I don't know if you guys knew about it or not, but what they did was really sneaky and terrible. And that's where a lot of our tax increase came, you look on the school district, you guys should be calling those guys up and chewing their ass too. Cause like these guys, I'm teed off too. Thanks. But I want to know
They do it.
what our plan is in the future to stop this hemorrhaging. I've been asking this meeting over meeting over meeting, and I still get the same thing. I don't know. Let's come up with something. Put a task force together. Bring some of the business leaders in this town, some of these citizens in this town, form some sort of task force to figure this out. Let's put in a business park and bring some revenue in here. Let's sell some of the land we have. We don't need that land in Athens, period. For a dollar? No, it's, well, could be. If it's $1 and we get 10 million out of it, I ain't opposed to that.
6 years?
But by the way, that land was sold for 5,000 times the asking price.
How about that?
$5,000 for 6 acres.
Thanks, Mike. Anybody else?
Mike Powell, 23045 Ambassador Boulevard, Northwest. I wasn't even gonna talk today until Mike came up here. But I keep hearing this apartment building. We built the Vista. The only people that aren't complaining about taxes this week is Vista. We give them $2 million in taxes. All ours goes up. And Mike gets his business in town where we got nothing in return. You guys want to sell the property. You talked about ignorance a couple of meetings ago. I mean, you can put me in there because I don't know everything. I've asked a lot of questions and I haven't got a lot of answers either. So explain to me how putting 26-year TIFs are going to help anything, because we always talk about the TIF, but we don't talk about how much it costs us to get anything. We talk about, well, we got this beautiful building down the road, but the only thing we're going to get is more traffic. We got a beautiful building here. How much of it's empty? That's where our taxes are going, and we don't want to say it out loud. I mean, we want to sell property. We're selling all this stuff, or we're building the wastewater treatment plant. We're building this off of growth. Growth isn't here. Otherwise, you could have sold the property for more than $1 all those years. So businesses don't want to come in here. People don't want to come and build here, but you're building all this stuff on the growth that's never coming. And this isn't a new thing. 15 years ago, when the wastewater plant was here, that was your argument. It's too big. We don't need it. We don't need it that big. But in the same time, you're for this stuff that's doing the same thing. This building was built on growth also. When the growth isn't coming, and it hasn't been coming for 15 years, but yet we're still building without any money coming in on a hope it comes. Sounds like the Affordable Care Act. More people that are in it, cheaper it's going to be. The only people that benefit are the people that aren't putting money in it. And then we're doing that. So we're complaining about that, and then we're doing this in our own neighborhood. I lived in a town where $7,000 a year in taxes because of this kind of stuff. I moved away from it because I don't want to be a part of that anymore. And we keep doing it. And we've got to stop. I mean, yes, my taxes didn't go up as much as a couple of these gentlemen. My heart breaks for them. But so long as we keep building, waiting for growth and going into debt, I mean, that water treatment plant, I toured it. It's a beautiful place. It's a lot of moving parts. We didn't need it that big. And you guys were mad about that, but then you did this. And then you've got a $2 million tax levy for them down the road. So is it all your guys' fault? No. A lot of you guys, a couple of you are new, but we keep making the same mistakes, expecting a different result. And if I'm ignorant and I'm wrong, that to me, that's not a bad word. Educate me. I'm willing to learn. If what I'm saying is wrong, I need you guys to explain how I'm wrong. And I will apologize to everybody, but as I'm saying, if we keep spending money and we get no return in it, we're going to continue this, and we're going to be at $10,000 a year in taxes. You know, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, so that's why I'm asking for help to understand this. I mean, because you guys got privileged more information than I have, and I'm willing to listen. But all we keep saying is, well, it was past administration, it's past administration, but we're doing the same things now. And all I got to do is say, please, let's stop spending money we don't have. Thank you.
Hello, I'm sure everybody knows who I am. I am Joseph Morel, 24360
Don't have to give
Yukon
your
Street.
address anymore.
Oh, I don't?
Nope.
We're blocking that out? Good. Obviously, everybody's here due to taxes. We already know about that. But what I'm looking for is some fiscal responsibility from the council members on where to cut and where to cut from budget cuts. If you want to save, you want to campaign, you want to talk about saving money, you better make a spot that you need to cut it from and do it. Don't say it's not my job, it's not your job. It is your job, your job, your job, your job, and your job. So if you're gonna cut the taxes, find the spot. I know why everybody's here, because when I first moved up here, my property taxes were affordable. It is becoming increasingly unaffordable. I was here for the wastewater treatment plant. I was here, I helped you get elected. I basically campaigned for some of you guys and you guys are failing. Some of you are failing. You need to find a spot to cut it so people can afford it. Otherwise, it's going to start to look a whole lot like Coon Rapids and North Minneapolis, where everybody moved from. And second of all, when I see all the cars in the parking lot, I don't know, maybe we should address having the door unlocked. Because if I am coming to a city council meeting, one would think that the door would be open to the public and I shouldn't have to text a council member to let me in the door. It's kind of sad. Thank you. Have a great day.
That's a text. I didn't see it.
Anybody else?
My name's Jordan Ballman. I'm a resident of St. Francis. I want to say thank you guys for what you're doing. Does anybody know the median age of the first-time home buyer? No?
Heard the other day it was like 40.
It's 40. I've got 3 little kids that I'm raising that I need to provide for and help establish, and this community is not supporting in that and having to raise the taxes like this. I echo what all the other guys were saying. Is there, from the feedback that you're getting, is there any chance that you guys are able to rework this and re-vote on it? Or is this pretty much done deal for 2026?
The final will be next week.
No, it's tonight.
No.
It is
You can approve it tonight, but it has to be set at the
by
next
the
next
meeting.
one, because it has to be set by the end of December. It has to be sent to the county.
Well, I would urge you and plead with you that you would reconsider and find what you can do to cut it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Mayor, council people, and city officials. My name is James Jones. I live at 23725 Knackery Street. I'd like to start out with a little humor. I used to watch Rod Sterling's Twilight Zone, and I noticed that there's a meeting going on in Anoka tonight for the county, and I can't be in 2 places at once. It's just not feasible. Little humor, I think what you should do with your proposed property tax notices is put a little notice on the front to be opened only in the presence of an EMT and a defibrillator. 50 years ago, I worked for Anoka County as an assessor. So I know that your valuation is determined on your property and the classification, and that determines how big of a piece of pie of the budget you pay. And I think that's where the problem is. My dad named the public works in the police department building the Taj Mahal. If he were alive today, he'd call it the Taj Mahal 1, and this building the Taj Mahal 2. So I just think you've got to zero in on the budget. And I realize that what we've got here is a small town with a big infrastructure. I have friends who say, things could be worse. I said, how's that? Well, I'd have to pay for it, they say. And they asked the question, do any of these council people that have approved some of this grow up here in St. Francis? And as far as stormwater, that's always stuck in my craw because I practice no-till farming and the moisture permeates into the soil. Where normal farming, 1 or 2 inches, it'll run off, but with no-till, it doesn't. There's a former governor out in the East Coast, Larry Hague. He was a Republican in a Democratic state, and he refused to collect the stormwater. He said, since when do we collect for rain, tax rain? And I can see the fact that you probably have to assess everyone for it, because otherwise you'd be out measuring who's got so much pavement, do they live on a sewer place, and so my taxes went up 2 years ago 30%. Last year, 20%. This year, my house and buildings went up about 25, and the rest of the ag land went up 15. But I've got green acres, and I'm sure I'm not going to get a lot of sympathy from people when I tell them that I'm a part owner in 320 acres. So there's a Grover Nordahl, I think was his name. His attitude was he wanted to shrink the federal budget to where it could be drowned in a bathtub. And that's what I'd like to see here in St. Francis as well. A rather ostentatious building that was built here. I was wondering if there was a clause in the architect's agreement that if he wins a prize from a trade magazine for designing a building with so many windows, I got a kick. I ran into the mayor over at the Hardware Boys 50% off sale, and he was buying a 6-foot ladder, and I just thought, how are you going to wash out the windows in the city hall with a 6-foot ladder? But I think we used to have boards of review and equalization in April of every year, and everyone would get their valuation, and no one knew in advance what the following year the taxes were going to be. And I am happy with the way it's done now. But I sympathize with people. I know the people, my neighbors who own homes, said that their taxes were going up $800 a year. So I don't know. That's all I've got to say. I realize you people have a tough job, but just consider sharpening the pencil. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Hi, Council. I'm Holly Bellman. I'm a resident. Thank you for what you do. Our taxes have gone up $700 this year, which I realize is small in comparison to some, but it's a lot for us as a family. So I would encourage you to not approve the budget today, to put it off until the end of December and find a way to cut even $50,000 and show us that you can make a change. I know it's hard. Cutting a budget is so hard. We've done it in our family. I think a lot of people have done it lately. I'm sure you guys have done it in your own families. But when the money's not there, we don't spend it. Thanks.
Thank you, Holly. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing for the budget levy at 7:09 PM. On to council discussion. Anybody want to go first?
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Amy.
Well, it was mentioned a couple times here tonight, as well as I saw a lot on social media, that the meeting tonight here for the city portion where you can come and speak is at the exact same time for Anoka County. And so today at 6 PM. And now I understand that that is probably just because we have our meetings on the 1st and the 3rd Mondays in the month. And Anoka County probably just has their meetings on the 1st and the 3rd. I'm guessing. So it just happens to be on the same day. I would like to see for next year that we move our first meeting in December to Tuesday. So, so people would have the opportunity to go to the county and also here.
Yeah, offsetting it would be bad.
Yeah, that I think that some may have thought it was sneaky that we had the meeting at the exact same time. It's just coincidence that it's that way, I think. But I would like to see an opportunity for us to change it. And we don't have to do that tonight, but for next year, I think we should think about moving our meeting one day so people have the opportunity to go to both places.
Does anybody know, has it happened that it's fallen on the same night? It does.
Yeah.
So
they must have their meetings on the first Monday of the month too. So I don't know, that's just my thoughts. Also, I brought my tax bill too. My tax bill went up 26%, equaling about $1,200. And everyone here is correct. Goes up $1,200 a year. That's $100 extra that we don't get to do something. Maybe we go out to eat one less time, which takes revenue out of, a restaurant here or elsewhere. Or maybe that means, we spend a little bit less on Christmas. And I have only been on the council for this year, so 11 months. And I feel that I've done my best to vote no on a few things that I didn't think that we needed. And I'll continue to do that. But I agree with everything that was said here tonight. I think that I'll include myself, even though I wasn't here for a lot of it. We spent money like it wasn't ours, and it was water. And I tried to say no a few times, as well as the mayor. I'm sure he will talk tonight. He's tried many times to reduce the budget and the expenditures. And I think that we should have done more, honestly. And for tonight, my vote is going to be no. I'm not going to vote yes on this. I don't believe that we're going to get enough votes to really do anything, but I will be voting no tonight on budget, because I feel like we could have done more. There should have been a shared sacrifice. I'm sorry, I took your words. That people in St. Francis moved out here to have open spaces and less government. That's my view. That's why I moved here. And, they're regular people. They're sitting around the kitchen table at the end of the month trying to figure out how they're going to pay the bills. And you tack on an extra $100 where everything else is so expensive. All the prices are going up. And I just don't feel like the city council here did enough to try to mitigate some of that for the people that live here. That's all.
Thanks, Amy. Roll.
One thing I want to address, one of the gentlemen that came up mentioned too, how it's whether or not we have to figure out whether or not it's fair to what the residents can pay and afford. And part of the problem with that is it's hard to, I'm not making excuses. I'm telling you, basically, these are my thoughts of how I have to figure out where we have to go next. We can't tailor taxes and needs of the city to how certain people are doing, unfortunately. And a lot of that comes in where we have to have streets plowed, we have to have police and fire, parks, mowing the parks, water is separate, that goes on the water users, and that's part of where the biggest part of that TIF would have helped the water users and the water users in their water use. Not necessarily the taxes until they refinance and get on the tax rolls. And that's a whole different deep subject that we're not gonna get into tonight. I think it's part of the huge increase too comes in with, you were gonna pay it one way or another with the MS4 permit. And Public Works did a great job a few months ago with their presentation on MS4 and what it was and why it was here. And we do try to educate the public on a lot of those things. And those are things that I don't think any of us up here are happy about, any of these costs. We did a road program several years ago, which before you would get assessed for your road, if it was redone, all of a sudden those property owners get slapped with a $10,000 bill with interest on top of it. Now nobody gets that for the road portion of it. If there is water and sewer under it, you can get assessed for that, which we've seen earlier this year. So as those costs go up as well, again, every cost is going up and we have to maintain what we have. And those are things that affect the levy overall as well. So I think to maintain those things, there's going to be increases when the market for everything is insane the way it is with the inflation we've had. Again, none of us are happy with it. I do credit the mayor for talking to staff and also trying to get the budget down earlier this year. He tried to do an exercise too where we can sharpen our pencils, was his words, and to try to lower that budget. And if we're looking where we can cut and where we can't, I mean, a lot of it comes to every dollar is attached to a service of some sort. And you have to decide what's important to you. We've talked about parks. We have people that are passionate about parks. We've talked about, well, roads are roads. You have to maintain those. Water and sewer and everything. And Mike, you're not wrong, Mike Powell, as far as when it comes to me complaining about the wastewater facility and then this building. Okay. I did push back on this building up into a point where it didn't make sense to push back because we would have lost a lot of money. In the end of the day, I did vote yes, and I take responsibility for that. So I will say that, but the only thing, in my opinion, that we can do tonight is if we were to continue it, what are we gonna do between now and 2 weeks from now? Are we gonna have, I mean, you've already tried to, the mayor's already tried to talk to staff to get it down as much as we could. We did get it down roughly 100,000 or 95,000, I think it was. So that has been done. Doesn't mean we can't continue to do it for next year.
I'm sorry to correct you. That didn't get done.
That didn't pass.
No.
Oh, it didn't
pass.
That was at
Oh, that's right.
That was at a
Okay.
work session and it did not pass.
That's right. We went against that, I guess, because it was that, and that's, you're right. So he did have him work on that and sorry, I'm lost here. The correction came in too, and my argument for going against that in the work session to not move forward with it is because it's similar to the water situation. And this was on my speech about ignorance and whatnot. And that has to do with, what was it, 8 years ago, we got in because the wastewater facility came in at an increased price. Everybody was pissed off. Well, I got in. I'm the only person here that was voted in that's still here during that time. I got voted in because of that. We followed our campaign promise. We got the rates down 20% from the increase. What that total increase was, I couldn't tell you, but it went from 85-45. We got it down 20% from where it was. And had we had that 20% increase over the last 8 years, we wouldn't be hitting the people on the water as hard as we are today. So we followed our promise. We did what we thought was right for the people, what the people wanted, and now it's hurting us now. And so the fear of trying to lower it, what was it? Well, I don't remember what
I think it was like 95, 100,000.
so we lowered it 100,000. I mean, it would have affected your taxes probably about $5 a month maybe, or is it $5 a year? I don't remember, but
No, it's really like $5.
either way, it's almost nothing. So there has been exercises done to do that, to try to figure out what it was. Amy and Mark were in favor of it. The three of us at the time were against it. And the reason is because it's a pay me now or pay me later situation where the bills have to be paid. And as ugly as it is, as much as we don't like it, the work has to get done and the bills have to be paid. And that's kind of where we're at, where, you know, some can say that this building, which is here and it's here now, there's nothing we can do about it at this point. You know, you can say it's a luxury, which I'm sure some will. But there's needs and there's luxury items, and saying to cut some of the expansions or wants or whatever, there's not a lot there, in my opinion. And again, that's my opinion, to cut. We can start looking at services, and services can get worse. And that's kind of the cost you pay. So it's one of the other things, and I get the affordability. I totally understand that. I'm not hitting as hard as some of the other people out here, and I do feel for you. But that's kind of where I'm at with it. It's unfortunate and it sucks, but it's a pay me now or pay me later system, unfortunately. And that's kind of where we're at. The valuations, though, I would definitely encourage people to contact the assessors. That's all I have.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks for interrupting, by the way.
So, sorry.
Nope, I was wrong. I need to be checked.
Kevin?
I'm so pissed, I'm shaking. I don't know if I can talk about it or not, but I think it's pretty, Amy, I take umbrage that you say, you know, I wasn't here. You can only use that excuse for so long. You have 3 more years to go. And if you haven't met with any department head since you've been here, or talked to anybody personally, that's on you. You could have sat down in March. We started our work sessions in March with Ernest. You had many, many, many times you could speak up or bring something, or again, meet with a department head and talk about things. So that's question thing one. You know, it's hard to encapsulate March. It's hard to encapsulate 9 months of talking about this and then give you answers like Mikey's got questions. Tell me about this. Tell me about that. It'd be hours, probably hundreds, a lot of hours to tell you what we dissected and looked at and whatnot. Again, you can go back to Darcy brings up slide 61 or page 61. You could help us. We could slash parks, which we didn't have a parks budget prior to this year or last year. So we devoted $200,000 to it in 24. We devoted money to it again in 25. So if you took parks, we could go from 200 down or 250 down to nothing. That would be a small percentage, but then we can't do anything with our parks. And then we got people saying, we want amenities, we want parks, young families with young kids, we want things like that. Well.
Where's Barb? Where's Barb? Where's Barb?
She's right behind you.
She's back there.
Barb,
where are you?
At any rate, we could go line by line. Again, the old adage, line item, you know, discounts. We could do something like that. But again, there'll be some outcries for some services like Joe said, police, fire, and the general levy. Most of it, we've got almost $630,000 in general levy increase from last year to this year. That includes, like you said, insurances have gone up sometimes double our insurance premiums. The city does as well. COLA, cost of living raises for the individuals that work here. Do we want talented people or do we want people that are not so talented? There's just a myriad of things. Again, it's hard. I'm not a very good debater, so it'd be hard. Like I said, it's hard to encapsulate 7 months of talking about some of this stuff. As far as this building, I voted for it. Again, 28 people showed up to 2 open houses that we had at the old buildings. Our firefighters were washing their clothes and eating their lunches in the same domicile, in the same cube. So with the rise of cancer incidents and whatnot amongst firefighters and whatnot, we could have built just a fire station and it might have cost $8 million and not a city hall. Do you want a pole barn in the middle of town? Do you want a pole barn at the end of town? I mean, there's all these choices we could have made, but you elected us here. And I don't know of anybody here that made false promises to get elected. I hope not. I know I didn't. But we did the best with what was in front of us. And again, the outcry in the last 2 years for amenities or things that need or wanted in the city. Again, wants and needs are 2 different things. That was brought up a couple meetings back. Can you decipher the want from a need? I think we've tried to do that. Again, we have no control over costs of living. Again, as I said, my taxes have gone up too. There earlier, gentleman said, vote with my feet. I might be voting with my feet. I could relinquish my seat in the next year. If a guy doesn't want to pay his taxes that much, but I feel for all of you. I really do. And I got the same statements that you got, with the same sticker shock that you got, and the same dismay that you have. So, again, if we wanted to do some cutting, but again, later on, somebody's gonna say, but we don't have this, or, so-and-so's got that, or the city's got this. So I don't know. We looked at it pretty close. And again, the mayor employed the employees, give me 1%, go across the board, one less set of tires for a truck, or this or that, or, we cut police. The police budget alone is $3 million a year. That's almost a third of our entire budget. Do you want to cut the police department? I don't think so. The fire department's budget is now it's just about 510,000, which now we moved to the fire district. That's 500,000. Do you want to cut anything in the fire? I don't think so. So I don't have the answer. I know it's not easy. I see all these other cities in here, anywhere from 3% to 9%, 4% in between. Their day of reckoning is coming. And Oak Grove and some other cities can pound their chest and say, we've got the lowest taxes in the county. Well, again, day of reckoning is coming for these people. And, $1 million houses and whatnot in a small farming community or bedroom community like Oak Grove, it's going to happen sooner or later. They're going to want things. And you already hear murmurings of, we don't have this, we don't have that. So as far as commercial entities, there's only so much commercial property in town. We're 2 miles by 12 miles long, 12 miles wide by 2 miles deep anyway. The city doesn't own much property here as it is. We've had a gentleman bought one piece of property over here, the old Hiller property, with promises of retail and apartments and this and that and this and that. That trailer's still sitting there and nothing's happening because he couldn't get any occupants to fill his space. So, and as far as Vista Prairie, and again, it'd be hard to encapsulate that conversation, which had lasted over a year before they even broke ground. We became a partner with them because if we didn't do something here, or let me rephrase that, there are still people in town that want to live here. They have kids and grandkids and stuff here and do school activities and whatnot. So there was a need for something like that. And it was an abatement, not a TIF. And it was 8 years instead. They figure they can do it in 8 years instead of 10. They're still paying their sewer and water bill. They got a break on their property taxes, but they're paying their sewer and water bill. So don't be fooled by somebody saying otherwise. I voted for it. They did a nice job. That piece of property might still have tumbleweeds and foxtails growing in it if we hadn't done something. It's brought probably some jobs. I don't know how many jobs to the city or city residents. There was a need. They filled that need and they did a nice job on it. And it's a gem actually within town. So, and again, as far as the answers, you want to start cutting, we could cut all day long. But again, there's pain with some of that stuff. So be careful what you wish for is all I can say.
Can I add something quick too? Sure. One of the things you're looking at when you're looking at the county's tax rates and whatnot here, on the back of your tax statement, take in mind of the population as well. Again, the levy, we suffer a lot more too sometimes because we're a small town. We have less population. Growth will help us. It doesn't necessarily have to be residential. It'd be great if commercial comes in, but a lot of times commercial doesn't come in unless you have the residents. And when I say that, some people think I say I want to turn this place into Minneapolis and put an apartment on every corner. That's not the case. But that has to be considered as well too. So part of I think what we need to do as a city is look into growth. It'd be great if we can get more commercial because they usually benefit us tax wise and don't rely on our services as much. Usually that helps. But I just want to throw that out there too. When you're looking at percentages of different cities, keep in mind of the population of those cities compared to us as well, because that does affect it quite a bit.
Anything else, Kevin?
No, sir. Thank you.
Sarah?
Yeah, I agree. I know it's painful. It's painful for all of us. I do want to clarify, in order to be on the council, you have to be a resident of St. Francis. So there's nobody up here of us 5 who don't, you might not be on city water and sewer, but we all have to live here. It's not staff does not have to live in our city, but to be on the council, you have to live here. So just clarifying that for people who might not understand that. And I agree with Kevin. We can cut, we really can. And we talked about that. We talked about how we cut. We talk about that. And if that's truly what you're asking us to do and you want us to do, we can cut fire, we can cut police, we can cut parks. But really in all reality, all it's doing is pushing it off. That's all it's doing is pushing all this stuff off. If we don't maintain our buildings, then it costs more later. If we don't build now, it costs more later. If we don't give our firefighters safety to protect you guys and us, I don't want my firefighters having to decontaminate where they're eating. I don't think that's fair. I don't think any of you would want your family member to be doing that. Can we cut staff? Sure, we can cut staff. But again, it's all going to have an effect. It's all going to come down to stuff that we've been told people have wanted. And then we give it to them and they say, oh, we don't want it because now you're going to charge us for it. We can say no to Highway 47. We can. They will come through. Just a minute, please. They will come through. They will put their little prettiness on it. They can do whatever they want. They can increase the speed. They can do whatever they want to it. Then we're going to have to deal with all the infrastructure underneath. We're going to have to pull up that road. We're going to have to fix what's under there. So it's going to just double that cost to everybody instead of doing it right the first time. Did we need this big of a building? Maybe not. But if we don't build a building that can take care of the future growth that we're anticipating, we're hoping for, getting a new business. If you don't have a fire department to come take care of your fire in your building, a business isn't going to come here. If they have to wait for somebody to come from 15 miles away, we're running into that with ambulance. We're losing people because an ambulance service can't get here. They don't have enough people. So our solution was, you know what, let's let our fire department help with that. Let's let them go and help people when there's a medical emergency. So you're not waiting 20, 30 minutes for an ambulance to get to your house. Whether it's a fall or a heart attack, that wait time determines whether you're with us or not anymore. And to me, I want to provide that service for you guys. If that's something you guys are willing to give up, then that's something we can do. And we can. But the problem is when we work on it, is at the time that we're working on it, nobody comes and talks to us. It gets to this point where we're at the push, we're at the very last second before anybody shows up to talk to us and tell us, Tina, you're an exception. You have been here. But there have been a few, Tina. There have not been, there's several meetings where no one's in this seat. It wasn't until recently that you guys started coming. I moved here in 2012. I started coming to meetings as soon as I moved here. And I'd like to know how many people in this room intend to go talk to the school district, because that's a huge good. And whether it's going and talk to them in person or emailing them, you need to reach out to them too. I do agree, Amy, if our meetings are gonna fall on the same night, there is absolutely no reason we can't adjust. Absolutely no reason. That's not a problem. I think that's a good thing. But talk to the tax assessor. They come around. When you see them out there or they leave a little note on your door, give them a call, start talking to them. It may not fix it. I can't tell you why the tax assessor is raising your property so much. That doesn't make sense to me either. I don't know how you can walk through somebody's property and go, oh, it looks like they moved 2 trees and maybe they put in a new front door and their property just went up 30,000 or whatever. It's an unreasonable amount. I get that. But I don't know what the solution for that is, because we don't control the assessor either. We can hire a different assessor. That might cost more. I don't know. So we can definitely, we can cut, we can, but it is going to hurt and people are going to feel it. And that's the bottom line. It's going to hurt. And I can't guarantee that in 3 years, when maybe none of us are sitting up here anymore, if people decide they don't like how we're running it and they want to take over, I don't know that they aren't going to slam you with twice as much as what we're trying to save you from. That's all I have. Mayor.
Thanks, Sarah.
Can I say one thing, Mayor?
Sure.
Just to answer that one question about how much of this building is empty. There's 3,500 square feet upstairs. There's a second floor on here. We opted to do the second floor because it was cheaper to do it now and have some space that was there. The walls got to come up no matter what. But to put a cap on just one story didn't make it as much economical sense as putting a cap on a second story. That space is my thought process, and the chief's process was it could be a training ground. We toured other fire stations. And you could actually move walls and make some smoke, and you could do some physical training in there where we could actually, for hire, for pay, for admission fee, other fire departments come over and train in our area. So that it's sitting up there. It is empty at the time, for the time being. But again, slow and steady wins the race. It's not something we want to rush into and start buying materials and do things like that. So it can be used for training purposes down the road. And again, and I don't know if you know, like Sarah touched on, our fire department is there. Most of our guys are all EMT certified, all of them. As of a year and a half ago, the average ambulance response time was over 22 minutes. And a personal experience, again, that happened in my house. They came in 8 minutes, and I live in St. Francis. So, and they came with the proper tools and skill set to do a job. Again, our guys, you know, the building that was put together, again, was built for the future. Again, we're now forming a fire district with Bethel. We have more or less absorbed their department that they had and their equipment, et cetera. And again, that's something out of the future. So consolidation is really key as far as economics goes, saving money for any cities that are involved that will partner up and can get their egos and big heads out of the way and work on efficiency and the proper economics. So I just want to mention that empty space. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. I don't know where I'd start. I'm not going to go along with it because most people know where I stand on a lot of this. Number one, property taxes, in my opinion, are one of the most regressive types of taxes there is. The entire system's flawed, and that's not something, unfortunately, we can fix. I hate property taxes. I think it's, you fix your place up and they're gonna penalize you. That's the way I look at it. But that being said, bottom line for me, Amy mentioned it earlier, is staff did their job. The staff came with a budget. The budget kept everything the same going forward. That was the 11% increase. So staff did their job. They came with a budget that said, we need 11% in order to keep everything the same. The other, as we talked about, the other 5% is the MS4. My problem with that, keeping everything the same at 11%, is what it says is, you're a taxpayer, you figure it out. We're not gonna make any sacrifice. We're not gonna make any cuts on our end. It's up to you as a homeowner to either come up with more revenue or come up with a cut. We're not gonna share the pain. And I think that's wrong. So to the staff's credit, they did come down. Darcy, Kate, I don't know who was all involved, and they came at our work session. What they proposed, it would only knock it down a couple of percentage points. And I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but the bottom line is it would not result in any drastic cuts. It was keeping everything close, is I guess what I'm saying. If all the stars aligned and everything went forward as expected, it wouldn't have an impact. But if the extra $100,000, I'm just going to call it, was a kind of a safety net for the departments in case costs continue to go up, which they very well could. I acknowledge that. And at that work session, it was decided by consensus, 3-2, to keep the budget at the 11%, roughly 11%. So bottom line for me is I'm going to be voting no, not because I said if we went with the secondary budget that was proposed, that roughly $100,000 of cuts, I could vote for that. Still be an increase of 9%. That's a lot. But I could have gone for that. I can't go for this because it simply puts every bit of pain on you instead of us sharing some of the pain. So I'm going to be voting no tonight.
I want to understand when you say sharing the pain. So this is my understanding of how local government works. And the pain is passed on one way or another to the residents. It's either a financial pain to keep it the way it is, or if we ask each department to say shave $50,000 off, that hurts the services that department provides one way or another. And oftentimes we might save each person in this room $5-10 a month. And I understand that adds up. I understand everybody wants more, county wants more. Totally get that. But if we save you each person $5 a month and now they can't, say, and I don't think this would happen. I think our department heads do a good job. So let me put that out there before I bash them. Let's say, Todd cuts $50,000 out of his budget. We don't have an officer on or whatever. They're slow to get to response time. That cost of having lesser of a service or fire department we're all going to complain about the streets all the time, but we do have a fund for that. Parks, there's people that love them, people that say get rid of them. Again, if that saves you $5 to $10 a month and we don't provide those services, to me, the hit on the services is often worse than the impact on the individual when you're talking about saving them such a small percentage. And that's the problem that I face when I'm weighing my options is we cut this much, people save $5 a month, and now we have other issues that we have to deal with. And now more people are complaining about not having this or this not happening or whatever it may be. And so the impact of the $5 a month takes away a lot of money from the whole, in which case the consequence to me is worse than that $5 a month that we end up saving. So if we, again, I get it, it adds up. School doing their thing, county doing their thing. All of our streaming services, I'm sure want more, everything. It's quality of life as well that's affected by all this stuff. And I understand all that too. And, I have to weigh my options just like everybody else too, as far as what do I want to do? What do I keep? What do I not keep? How do I cut my budget because of that? But when you say sharing the pain, to me, that pain, we as a city are here to provide the service to the people. So if we're not providing that service, or the service gets less, or we're saying to our department heads, do better with less, you create that strain on those departments as well. And I was fortunate enough, I guess I'll say, to work for a company for a long period of time that stressed its workforce out tremendously, required us a lot of overtime, working insane hours a lot. And the morale of those services, those people, those human beings that are providing those services, it affects the quality of work that they do. Whether we want to admit it or not, it just does. It's a human nature thing. And that's no disrespect to the people that are providing those services, because it affects us as people. And if the quality is less, that's part of the issue as well, in my opinion. So that's what I want when you say sharing the pain. That's where I don't get, how can the city share the pain? You know what I'm saying?
I do, but right away, what you're doing is you're saying it has to be a service. I'm not saying it has to be a service. I know I'm going to be beating a dead horse. No, it's not. We're not beating a dead horse. And I've said it a million times. When we're talking about $72,000 dog parks, when we're talking about $50,000 fire poles, and we're talking about $1,000 benches out here in front of City Hall, that's the $8,000 fences. That's the stuff that adds up. It doesn't have to be service. It has to be the extras. So I think we pretty much know where we're going to go here. So I don't know if there's much more discussion needed. So if somebody wants to speak more, I'll certainly let anybody speak more. So that being said, let's move on to the resolution 2025-58 certifying taxes payable in 2026. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Muehlbauer. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Aye.
Passes 3-2. Resolution 2025-59 adopting a budget for 2026. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Udvig. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Robinson. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Passes 3-2. No old business tonight, so we're on to new business. 2025 code revisions, first reading. Beth?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Would you like me to just pause for a few minutes?
Sure, if you don't mind. Not yet. Nope.
So Mayor and Council, before you tonight are several requested code revisions. This is a process that staff completes roughly annually. We've been doing this every year since the full code adoption in 2021. And basically what happens is throughout the year, staff monitors the code. So as inquiries come in, as development projects move forward, and we note anything that maybe is confusing or conflicting, and anything that's not urgent, we kind of package in at the end of the year, somewhere from November to January. And we bring these housekeeping items to all of you for review. So this year, or tonight, there are several zoning text amendments that are requested. And so I'll go through each of these, but obviously if you have more detailed questions, I can flip to the red lines too. So the first requested amendment is related to definitions, specifically the definitions for property line, setback, and yard. These are concepts that are somewhat interrelated. And so we wanted to clarify when each applies, because there have been some questions as we've been working through different applications this year. So property line is the actual boundary line of the property. Setback is the required distance between the structure and the property line, so what's required by code. And then yard is the actual distance between the structure and the property line. So sometimes yard and setback will be the same, but sometimes they may not. And so we did create a graphic that's on the screen to at least help a little bit clarify what the property line is, what the setback is, and then what the difference is between rear, side, and front. Next up is cannabis. So there were some changes during the 2025 legislative session that the city is obligated to respond to. The biggest change here is that there's a new permit that was added for lower potency hemp edible wholesale. And so because that's a new permit or a new use, that's something that the city has to account for in its use table. And so staff is proposing that to be a permitted use in the business park and the I-1 districts. Those are the districts where currently the city allows wholesale and cannabis manufacturing. And so it seemed appropriate that the lower potency wholesale would fit in there as well. The other change related to cannabis is to clarify that the 500-foot buffer that's required between daycares and cannabis retail businesses, that specifically applies to childcare centers, so commercial childcare centers rather than in-home daycares. Next up is landscape alterations. This is related to land within the Rum River Management District. And the idea here is to update the city's code in order to be consistent with what is written in Minnesota rules today. So Minnesota rules says that landscape alterations are restricted within the setback areas for land in the urban Rum River Management District. The current code says that landscape alterations are restricted within a blanket 150 feet of the Rum River, regardless of if you're in the urban or the rural Rum River Management District. And so as you can see from that chart on the screen, that matches, the 150 feet matches with the setback for the rural, but it does not match for the setback with the urban. And so that creates a conflict as you have building setbacks that are saying one thing and then landscape alteration restrictions that are saying another. That gets confusing. And so staff is proposing to update the city's code to match what's in the state rules. Next up is some changes to the accessory structure section, which staff is proposing to change from structure to building. So that's the major change, is change that term from accessory structure to accessory building, mainly because, again, as staff was processing different requests, it came up that, these regulations that are in this section of the code, they're not meant to apply to all structures, things like fences or patios. They're meant to apply to buildings. And so we wanted to clarify that term because it was starting to get muddy as people were building things that aren't buildings. The other change here is to remove the zoning permit requirement for accessory structures that are less than 200 square feet in area. Anything 200 square feet and over is going to require a building permit, but staff is proposing to remove the zoning permit requirement for those smaller structures. Buildings, excuse me. See, I did it too. That's why it's confusing. The next change is for residential driveway performance standards. So there's language in the code today that requires a permit for any driveway that's either being redone or constructed new. That language exists in section 107203. However, as particularly residential properties are constructing and building driveways, there's a section called Residential Driveway Performance Standards, which is 107211. And that language doesn't say that there's a permit required. So as people are, if they only look at that 107211 section, they're missing the fact that a permit is required. And so staff has experienced this again throughout the year as they've come across, under construction driveways or driveways that have been completed without a permit. And so the idea would be to keep the language in 107203, but also move it into 107211 so that, again, put the language where people are looking for it. Next up is related to securities. So today, current city practice is that city allows a security in the form of a letter of credit. However, the code language actually requires cash for the first $10,000 or 15%, whichever is greater. And so that's not what city is doing currently. And so staff is proposing to update that language to match what the current practice has been. And the last proposed amendment here is related to wall signs in the B1 district. That's the Bridge Street district. The proposal would be to update the requirements for wall signs in B1 to match the requirements that are in B2 and the Business Park district today. So if you read that actual section in the code today, it's missing the cap on what the maximum square footage for a wall sign can be on a large wall of a building. And so staff is proposing to add that language in, again, matching what's there for the B2 and the Business Park District. So the cap would be 75 feet plus 5% of the wall area that's in excess of 500 square feet. So with that, Planning Commission reviewed these proposed changes and held a public hearing at their November meeting. There were no comments received from the public at that time. And so they unanimously recommended approval of the zoning amendments. And so tonight, council is asked to take action on those amendments. And the suggested motion for the first reading of ordinance 352 is on your screen. Happy to answer any questions.
Kevin?
I have no questions, sir.
Sarah?
I don't have any questions.
Amy?
Me either.
Nothing's housekeeping.
Good housekeeping. I appreciate it. Thank you, Beth. I don't have anything to add to that either. So that being said, do we have a motion to approve ordinance 352, modifying division 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 in the zoning code?
I'll make that motion, Mr.
Motion
Mayor.
by Councilman Udvig. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Councilman Muehlbauer. This is roll call vote. Roll call, please, Jenny.
Mayor Vogel?
Aye.
Councilmembers Udvig?
Aye.
Honest?
Aye.
Muehlbauer?
Aye.
Robinson?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. On to meeting open to the public again. Anybody wishing to speak, come forward.
Tina Carroll. So a few things that have come up. So talk about the dog park, and Mayor Vogel, I do agree that, those kinds of things do make a huge difference. But my understanding is that is a city-owned property that we put the dog park on, but that property is still for sale. Is that correct?
Mayor and council, the property is not for sale.
Okay, so that was a misunderstanding that I had heard from some people in the city here. And as far as cutting, and obviously that was already approved, so it's a null thing, but you talking about it moving forward, you talk about the parks. Why can't we cut some of that budget? And you have a community of 8,000 people here, people that actually wanted that park. Why not ask for community volunteers to come and mow the lawn, help clean the park, do whatever needs to be done there? It happens in cities all over the world. Why not here? I know that that's a small amount in the budget, but just an FYI, that's huge. You talk about getting community involved, that's a great way to do it. Ask for people to help. There's weeds out here. Instead of telling people to actually paying somebody to take care of it, okay, I bet you there's some kids have to do volunteer work, community work through the school. Okay, why not get kids to start doing those kinds of things at the school? There are ways to cut the budget for future, just an FYI. And I liked the idea, I don't remember exactly who said it, but do a task force for the next year's budget and get community members involved, get business owners involved. Because yes, we elect you, but it would also be helpful to have people actually sit down and look at the line items to see what's out there. Because you have the general fund. Okay, we don't know everything that's in that general fund. We don't know everything that's in that miscellaneous area. There could be areas that we could help and look thinking outside the box. Something to think about. And the city-owned properties, okay? I know this is a sore subject, but instead of, we've got property here that we are trying to sell, okay? Instead of continuing to extend purchase agreements for $5,000, stop it and try and bring in a business versus an apartment complex. You want to bring more people, we get more money. As it was said, we don't have the services for them as much. It's businesses. Try and do different things with businesses versus apartments. And
You'd prefer a business in your backyard over an apartment?
yes, I would.
Oh, okay.
I would. There's lots of places I would be happy to have it. And I've talked about it, you know, there's many different things that could be back there. You know, try and bring in different grocery stores and Aldi, or, you know, I don't care if it's a U-Haul. I don't care what it is. But we're not spending as much on services if we're bringing in an actual business versus an apartment complex. So, and Joe, you talked about cutting the budget and having people, that there's a strain if we cut the budget in different departments.
There can be.
Okay?
Doesn't mean there's necessarily going to be.
Right, and I can say from firsthand, actually, in my current job, we cut 10 people in our department. And they restructured every single one of our jobs. And actually, our department is running smoother now than it ever has. Yes, there's pain points of learning different things, but it, even our customers, our sales reps, everybody says it's running much smoother because you don't have so many hands in the pot.
Yeah.
So it can be done.
No, I understand that.
And you brought up the whole Highway 47. So I have been in talks with the county engineer because we've been trying to figure out about the studies, traffic studies and speed studies. And because of the conversations I've had with him, he actually did a speed study. Put it on the wrong road because he wasn't supposed to have it done on Ambassador, and did it on 47 instead. But I was okay with that. Yeah. But I was actually okay with it. You guys are proposing 4, I don't know if it's just you, county, whoever's doing it.
MnDOT.
MnDOT,
Not us.
whoever, but we can push back on it, correct?
We did push back.
But just an FYI, you might want to talk to the city engineer as well. Because when he did that traffic study, they're proposing 4 roundabouts, which, whatever. I think they're dumb, but that's my opinion. The speed limit is 55 miles an hour. And he said for that week that he put that speed trap thing or what up there. But what they actually do is shut it off so people can't see that it's on. They don't know that what your speed is. It doesn't even look like it's on, which I didn't know that could be done, but that's pretty cool. But he said the average person drove 48 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone. So clearly that shows to me that it's not speeders, it's pure stupidity and people not paying attention. So something we really need to push hard to go back on if we have to put any money into that whatsoever. So.
Just for the record, do you share the gentleman's name with our staff at some point?
I can, actually, I'll find the name and I'll give it to you.
Email Jenny or Kate.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I can do that.
But MinDOT did do it. MinDOT did a speed study on our road, did they not?
Mayor and council,
Years ago, but.
and all of that has been repeated with the pre-design. Highway 47 isn't 55 miles an hour. It is a 45-mile-an-hour road, and a section goes to 35 with school. So thankfully, nobody is driving 55 miles an hour. That's one of the goals we've been trying to achieve. So that is good news. But yeah, we've had a lot of individuals out there recently as we work through the pre-design and environmental, but I will try to get in touch with the county and get that study as well.
Yeah, I'll get you the name of the person.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That's just a really quick, easy one. Mike Ball, 23045 Ambassador. The only thing I gotta say is they're talking about putting a roundabout on Ambassador and 47. So there's gonna be no break on that traffic being forced in here on the Ambassador. We've already got it pretty crazy here. And I've asked for more than from you and the county to get this checked out, and nobody wants to do it. They give us the wrong street. At least you guys told me no. But we got to figure out something on that. If they keep continually putting traffic down Ambassador without any break, how are we going to get in and out of our driveways?
I would encourage you to call MinDOT as well as the county, because it's a county-state intersection and we don't have jurisdiction there really for that stuff.
Well, I knew you guys didn't. I do appreciate that, and I will contact them. I mean, that's why I contacted the county, because I thought that's where I had to go. But any information you got, I mean, I'm not shy. I'll get hold of them. So, all right, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Come on.
My name is Michael Monium. And I suppose this is just a memory that came to me while I was sitting there listening to the conversations, and I'd like to thank everybody for participating in this and listening to each other. I was in the Coast Guard, and I was stationed in Duluth, and we had a section commander there, and we had a whole bunch of commanders all around America and all over, and there was a massive budget cut. And all I'm hearing is how terrible this is going to be, and how hard it's going to be to cut the budget, and all the stuff that's going to not work, and people aren't going to, and it goes on. And one commander after another got up and said what was going to happen, how bad it was going to be. And then our commander got up and he said, "My men can and will do the job." That's simple. He didn't tell anything about not being able to do this and not being able to do that, and this is going to happen bad, and that going to happen bad. He said, "My men can and will do the job." And guess what? We did. And guess what else happened? Everybody else did. So I think we should take that commanding officer's message to heart. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, on to reports. Kate.
Mayor and council, just a couple of updates. So we talked a little bit about Highway 47, just to let all of you know that they have found some funds for us to move forward. They're allocating additional money to that. That is the pavement up portion of this project, that it looks like our budget is whole at this point. Then we also have a tentative agreement with our public works team, so we will be bringing that to you at the next meeting. And then several additional housekeeping items are coming your way at the next meeting, so we are looking to get through them all. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions on anything else.
Question, Kate?
As far as the liquor store and Joe, we have a report at the end of December or early January. Joe, they used to do it quarterly, did he not?
Mayor Council, I'm gonna check with Darcy. I know he's done annually. We've kind of bounced around, but we can,
Yeah,
I guess.
as far as I know, he's only done annually.
Okay.
We do or we don't do it? I can't remember.
He does an annual
Annual,
report.
okay.
Yeah.
And then anything on the cannabis, the state cannabis business and drinks and regarding liquor store?
So Mayor and Council, so we are going to be watching that until the feds either change their path or we see the state is going to obviously have to react, whether the feds change it or not, to our current laws. We'll then be doing more housekeeping, most likely, on our cannabis ordinances. As of right now, we are aware that it is going to affect not only our ordinances, but our bottle shop and our sales at the bottle shop. But we're hopeful that things can get cleaned up, and one decision or another, we just need to know. And right now we're waiting for a lot of the upper levels of government to make decisions.
I haven't heard much or read much about it, but if the liquor stores are denied that option to sell the beverage, would it then fall back to a potential dispensary in town? They would be allowed to sell something like that?
So Mayor and Council, the way we're understanding it right now is the dispensaries would still be able to go forward because they are selling the actual plant. The products that are affected are the basically produced. So the seltzers, the gummies, the candies, all things. So the way we're understanding, some of it is even the dispensaries aren't allowed to sell that because it's manufactured versus the plant. So that's the big swing right now, is what's allowed based on the low dose versus the dispensary of the plant. So we're hopeful that the dispensary, industry can still move forward if that's their wish, if that meets those laws. But it sounds as of right now that low dose is what's impacted specifically, and
Okay.
things that are manufactured,
Is that the state or the feds?
federal.
Which doesn't make any sense because federal already has it still as a Schedule 1, don't they? And it's already illegal everywhere except states thumb their nose at that, but now all of a sudden it's gonna affect it. Makes zero sense. All right.
May I ask the chief a question also? With the sale of beverages and whatnot, how about your detection and in the field? What incidents have you seen, and how's that affecting you, getting impaired people off the street or not, or?
Yeah, and I think it's a little early to tell and get some real good data on that. We are seeing a handful of impaired drivers that are under the influence of something besides alcohol, but that's always kind of been the case. So I don't know that we have the data to really support. We've seen this percentage of an increase since marijuana's become legal, things like that. But so I would say it's not alarming to us what we're seeing right now as far as a difference on the street and operating vehicles, but it's still present. It's still there. So
You fall through that as the county attorney rejected or not rejected, but has there been some iffy stuff where people have bounced because they didn't have enough information, or?
well, that can always also be the case too with county attorney or city attorney or whatever. That can kind of depend on how the case unfolds from the beginning to the end. So again, I think it's a little early. The cases that maybe have been denied prosecution, I think it's a little early to tell us that, this is what we need to do different as far as either, establish probable cause or prosecution wise in some of these operating under controlled substance arrest. So it's early, but again, we're still seeing them. They're still prosecuting them as long as we can put together a decent case and have good probable cause. That's what they really depend on. And we're still looking for impairment. That's what it comes down to. So, and good testing after that. So.
All right. Thank you, Kate, for letting me take some of your time.
Any other questions, Kate? Thank you, Kate. Council member reports, who wants to start?
I can start. I don't really have anything that I necessarily did, but I would like to request one thing from, and I guess it's kind of partly from Jody, maybe, is a lot of times, I don't know if all of you guys feel this way too, but it seems like sometimes we're the last people to know when new businesses are coming in. So when there's a new business coming in, if we can just let the council know, because I mean, people are coming up to me and saying, oh, this is coming in. Well, we don't necessarily know that they're building, or, they're moving in or whatever. And you kind of look like a fool sometimes when your residents are telling you, we're getting urgent care, or, oh, this place is opening, or this, and you know, I'm like, the best I can do is call and ask. So I just think it'd be really nice if when we're having a new business coming in, if you can just kind of shoot the council an email so that we kind of are on the up and up and we know, because people kind of expect us. I feel like they expect us to know when new businesses are coming in. So I think that would be helpful if we can. It's not
And
too
feel free
much.
to
Yeah.
shoot me an email too, if you hear anything.
Right, yes, we can do that, but a lot of times they already, you know, and I don't, you know, whether they, I don't know how they are finding out before, but it seems like the last few things coming in, I've not heard anything from staff about, and, you know, you're back in your role.
Tell us
again,
what you
so-
know.
Yep, yep.
I know nothing, that's why I want to know, I mean,
Yep,
you know,
And some of it, you know, could be in the works.
Right.
So it's not shareable.
Right.
And people, maybe they're talking to somebody and then, you know,
Right.
everybody starts talking about
Right.
it. Different circumstances,
Right.
but for sure.
I think it's a great idea, but you do have to be careful. because-
right, I understand that. But like, when we know for sure something's coming in, we can say, hey, you know, this is that way, you know, we can, you know, because we're still waiting on that coffee shop that everybody's been waiting for the last 12 years. And I've heard, you know, like in the last couple weeks, I've heard, oh yeah, we've heard that this is coming in. And I'm like, oh, if you know something, I don't know, congratulations. But, and yes, I agree. It can be who you know and whatever,
Yeah,
but
whether they've closed
it-
on it or.
Yeah,
you know, 'cause
yeah.
I'm hearing the same things you are. Yeah, but sometimes it might be a land purchase. You
Yeah.
can't really put it out there
Right,
yet.
yeah,
Mhm.
I know, because lots of people are, you know, they're asking me what's going in at the hardware store in Rum. Well, I don't have any inside intel on that, you know, I've heard rumors of what might be going on, but you know, and I say, you can always call the city and ask, but I don't know, I feel like people kind of sometimes look at me like, oh, aren't you like part of that? Shouldn't you know that? And I'm
They
like,
have
"Yeah."
expectations for
Yeah.
you because.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it would just be a little helpful to, at least to me, on my last little run here on council.
So,
Nope.
thank you. Kevin?
I attended a small business Saturday. I helped my wife set up down there, and I think they had over 24 vendors overall. It was really well attended. It started out a little slow, then got really busy. A lot of local artisans and craft people doing showing their wares. So I think they deemed it a big success. And I attended a fire district meeting last week, and then we have another one tomorrow, and then one in 2 weeks after that. Again, it's just getting started. If those of you who don't know, Bethel Fire Department and St. Francis will be one fire department, and it will be called the Rum River Fire District. It'll be a separate entity as itself, and the template that we put together, that the group has put together, is a viable document that other agencies, maybe now then at some point down the road, they can't seem to get things going the way they like them. Again, it should be the way of the future, and the fire marshal, the state fire marshal is all for it, because again, it saves cities money and it makes things more efficient. There's no sense in two cities, again, Oak Grove and I'll say it, and St. Francis, we both have, you know, we have a $600,000 fire truck that we waited 2 years for. They're getting $1,300,000 fire truck that they waited almost 3 years or something like that, or any city for that matter. But it should be the wave of the future, so that's the only two things I have.
Kevin? Amy?
I don't have too much to report, but I like what Sarah said. You know, sometimes we're the last to know. I like the off-week memo that we get when, on the weeks that we don't have the meeting, and I just think, I find those very interesting, and I wonder, does all of that stuff happen on the weeks that we do have the council meeting and we don't get the memo about it? Because it's just on the off week. I would like to see, maybe the businesses opening could be in there in that meeting, but I really appreciate that. So thank you for putting that together. And I feel like I learn more from that than I sometimes do from our meetings. So that's really all I have.
Amy? Joe?
I don't have a lot to report as far as activity. Hope everybody had a safe, happy Thanksgiving. I'll probably be reaching out to the department heads, so just a heads up on that over the next week or two. But you know, it's painful for everybody. You know, this meeting is always a tough meeting, I think, for everybody, residents and us as well as staff. I don't know, I'm gonna throw it out there just as an idea, but I don't know if in January or whatever, you wanna start work sessions on budget and breaking things down or what, but I know we have different, speaking to you, Mark, I know we have different ideas of some things, but I think principally we agree on a lot of things, but we do tend to disagree from time to time. And I think it's one of those things that, I mean, we can try and discuss in the future as far as where department heads can cut, where they can't. You know, and I get what people are saying too. And I do appreciate everybody that showed up tonight, everybody that voiced their opinions. I hope to see more people here more often. I know it's hard. We all have full-time jobs. Well, most of us have full-time jobs. I don't know everybody's situation, I guess, as well as doing this. So I know time can be a factor when the meetings are at 6 as well. But as much involvement as you can give us, again, financial questions, you can call Darcy, call our financial department, ask those questions to help understand anything better. She's more than willing to talk to you. You know, we have staff available for questions. You may get directed to a different department if your question pertains to a different department, but all of our department heads are willing to work with you and talk to you and help you understand things better as well. So I encourage people to make those phone calls, send emails, whatever. Again, you can always email the council, depending on the depth of your question. A lot of times I'm going to refer you to the department head that runs that department that it pertains to, only because they can give you a better answer and it's more efficient than me asking them the question. I come back, tell you the answer, then you ask another question and back and forth. Calling the department head is usually the best option, and they get paid for that. So I know they're more than willing to do that. So I appreciate everybody that showed up, and thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I want to piggyback on that real quick. I'm always thrilled when we get that many people showed up tonight. And one other part of that is I know we all get agitated and excited, whatever word you want to use. And I appreciate everybody keeping it civil. That's greatly appreciated at this time and age. And I encourage you to continue showing up, and thanks for the input. Fire board, as Kevin mentioned, we're got a lot of meetings with that just as we're growing. I attended the chamber meeting on the 19th. I always enjoy the chamber, and again, we're really looking forward to what they've got slated for next year's Pioneer Days. And lastly, here's a fresh update that I just got. The hardware store, the business closed today. There's one more closing yet for the actual properties, but the business is sold. So the business side of it was sold today. So, and as I mentioned before, I'm very excited. The new owners are working with the current owners very well together, and their plans are to rehab the hardware store in Rum River Inn. It's going to be put on hold for the moment till they get the hardware store fixed up. So it will stay a hardware store. They've got some great ideas, some great vision, and a lot of energy. So I'm very appreciative of them. And the last thing I have real quick is I've got to submit to Kate the assignments for the upcoming year for 2026. And I've talked to Joe and I've talked to Kevin a little bit about this. The only one I'm suggesting changing is just because of Joe's unfortunate work absences here or there. I'd like to move Kevin to Mayor Pro Tem. But other than that, if somebody wants to move or something, I'm open to whatever, but otherwise I'm just going to keep it the same. So if anybody has any.
No one wants to take the upper Rum River. Anybody? Just kidding.
You've done such a wonderful job.
I know, I'm
She
killing
finally
it.
learned how to say it.
All
No,
right.
thanks.
Oh, come on.
Anything else, anybody? Okay, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Take that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Mulebauer. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Fawnis. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Full same sign. Meeting is adjourned at 8:18.